VidGo has all of my favorite live sports networks. They have a great choice of news. All of that for $59 a month. You deserve the freedom to be entertained at a price you and your family can afford. Please go to vidgo, vidgo.com/bill to check it out. On this Wednesday, the week presentation by Attorney General Garland last Thursday and the Stonewall testimony of FBI Director Christopher Wray a few days earlier should disturb every American. It is clear the Justice Department is being run by men who are not exactly profiles in courage. Now, I don't know if Donald Trump did anything wrong concerning classified documents, but I do know the matter is being handled in a way that is damaging this country. Overseas, our enemies are mocking us as they see the weakness of President Biden spreading to key federal agencies like the FBI. Based upon Merrick Garland's shaky demeanor at the podium, it is likely there is panic inside his office, and our adversaries know it. But the bigger picture inside the USA is this. President Biden's key department heads are all incompetent. Buttigieg in transportation is presiding over the airline collapse. Mayorkas in Homeland Security is responsible for the southern border debacle. And now justice seems to be in disarray under the frightened Merrick Garland. Astute and honest leadership is desperately needed in this country. But in my opinion, that's not going to happen as long as Biden is president. Finally, all Americans need to wake up. Some very bad things are happening. Now this. Many timeshare owners are very upset because their yearly dues have nearly doubled. Well, Lone Star will guarantee the release of all liability.
And tonight, Harriet Hageman has received the most votes in this primary. She won. I called her to concede the race. This primary election is over.
So that is not even the big story, really. The big story is what she said in interviews leading up to her conceding defeat. An interview with CBS probably hinted that she's going to run in 2024. And that's probably not even the big... I don't know what the bigger story is here, Steph.
Oh, my goodness.
The hints about what her aspirations might be in 2024, or the comparisons to a legendary name in the Republican Party. And we know this, Liz Cheney, her father really made the Cheney name. It really did. I know a lot of people didn't like him. They didn't like his gruff style. I always appreciated his style while he served under Bush, his VP. He was very, I always thought, matter of fact, and he didn't engage like in all the frolicky stuff that we see. It was just, and I had respect for that. People, I think, respected the Cheney name. After what she said last night, maybe it's just me.
No, I mean, isn't her whole MO, isn't part of her whole thing that Trump is like delusional following the 2020 election? And now, I would call this completely and utterly delusional.
Marsh, before I get into the audio here, did you hear who she compared herself to yesterday? Oh, you're going to love this. Check it out. Liz Cheney yesterday during her concession speech.
An original champion of our party, Abraham Lincoln, was defeated in elections for the Senate and the House before he won the most important election of all. Lincoln ultimately prevailed. He saved our Union, and he defined our obligation as Americans for all of history.
She's comparing herself to saved our Union. She is comparing herself to Abraham Lincoln. And folks already, obviously, on the left are saying, oh, my God, this speech was just as good as the Gettysburg Address. Wow. Yeah. Points are ready for March. And, John, I'm wondering, I'm trying to think in recent Missouri political history, if we go back 10, 15, I don't know, maybe even 30 years. So Cheney losing, that's not even the big story. And I think
she didn't lose, she got smoked.
Man, I was trying to be polite, Steph. She got smoked. Like somebody took some rolling papers, rolled her up, and smoked her. Dick couldn't save her.
In our nation's 246-year history, there has never been an individual who is a greater threat to our republic.
Dick Cheney, her father, doing a commercial for her. Stop it, Hannah. Oh, God. Hannah, stop giggling.
I'm not doing anything.
Dick could not save this woman. The legendary Cheney name, her dad, could not even save her, putting out that ad. And I saw that, by the way. Did anybody else see it this way? I saw when he put out that ad, I was like, okay, we know it's over. Now her dad even knows it's over. It's like her dad is doing the very polite fatherly thing. Like, you ever mess up really bad and your dad comes over and says,
your dad will always be on your team.
Yeah. Like you messed up before, John. Your dad says, little Johnny, it's okay. So the big story isn't that she lost. The big story isn't she lost. She got like maybe 30% of the vote in a state she carried. I think she got at least 70% several years ago when she won. That has flip-flopped. That highlights the power of these Trump endorsements, which I've got to be honest, I've poo-pooed those in the past. I don't think they're going to be as big as they think they are. Now, when we get to generals, I don't know, maybe a different story. But obviously, we're seeing the political clout at play here. We saw it in Missouri with Trump's endorsement of all three Erics, as far as we know, in our Senate race. But, Marsh, I'm trying to think, anything in recent political history in Missouri that could compare to this? Because it was no surprise she lost. No surprise she lost by a big margin. Big surprise she's comparing herself to Abraham Lincoln. What would be analogous here in our history? Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. That was a big deal. Yeah, that's comparable. 874-9390, 573-874-9390. How do you react to that Missouri comparison? Yeah, that was a pretty big deal. 573-874-9390. That's how you can get in touch with us here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Stephanie Bell, producer Hannah, Brian Houseworth, John Marsh. My name is Branden Rathert. Chuck joining us on the show at 874-9390. Chuck, your take, your reaction this morning?
Well, Liz Cheney comparing herself to Abraham Lincoln is the same as me backing over a cherry tree this morning and comparing myself to George Washington. Just saying.
Chuck, thank you. And that's how we roll here on, I like that, how we roll here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9 The Eagle and KWOS. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I've watched that kind of as a casual observer. I'm not knee deep in that stuff, but I'm kind of wondering, what was the takeaway there? What folks in Joplin, Missouri are saying, like, what happened there? How did this happen? Any hot takes that you've been hearing? Mm-hmm. Something new for the sake of having something new, maybe. All right, 874-9390. By the way, coming up, we're going to be doing the daily DC rundown with Stephanie Bell. We do that every morning here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. It's stuff that are things that are happening underneath the circus tent that is Washington, D.C., and how that affects us. We do it every morning, 6:25 on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. And with your travels abroad here within the confines of the United States, anything like that you've been hearing recently?
Well, I mean, I think one interesting thing about yesterday and what we're hearing coming out of Alaska is that there are 4 people that should have advanced from that Palin race and the Murkowski race. And we wake up this morning and, you know what, we don't really know who's advancing into the race. And it's interesting because, we got really close to ranked choice voting here in Missouri, and it was called Better Elections. We talked a lot about it here on the show. It missed the signature count, and so we are not voting on that in November. But Alaska is basically has the same plan. And you know what? I looked up who they passed an initiative. I looked up the group Alaskans for Better Elections. And they got ranked choice voting, and it's kind of the first test for ranked choice voting. And I think, I was in Arizona at the Republican National Lawyers Association conference this last week, and they're, the best and brightest conservative lawyers from all over.
That's a humble brag, by the way, Stephanie.
Oh, that is. No, I mean, I'm fangirling, right? Like the folks from the RNC and the RGA and the RLC.
Did you rub elbows with Doug Ducey, governor of AZ?
He was there. He spoke. The chief pollster from Trafalgar was there. I mean, just tons of really interesting people, and lots of friends that I've gotten to know over the years. But yeah, I mean, ranked choice definitely, just kind of in casual conversation was a conversation, and I think we had conservatives on our show saying, oh, it'll be good, it'll weed out the crazies, but I don't know that that's a consensus. And I think there was a lot of talk about how it was going to go in Arizona. It's been pushed in other states and it's failed, but this is the first big test. And I think one of the criticisms from my point of view is you wake up the next day and you don't know who won, and we're trying to instill confidence in our elections and give voters confidence that you vote on election day and you know who wins. And I heard in one instance we might not know till the end of the month.
That was one of the most, I don't want to say contentious, because that's not what we do here. We are fair, but we are firm. And we had somebody on the show several months ago talking about this ranked choice voting and stuff. And I don't know if you remember, John, but I was very polite to the guy, because we don't lambaste our guests. If we're going to sucker punch you, we tell you first. But this guy, the first thing I said to him, I said, this is confusing. Please explain it to our audience like we are 2 years old. And the guy went like 5 minutes nonstop with his answer. And I'm like, hold up. I said, explain it to us like we are 2 years old, because when I'm going to the polls, when I'm going to vote in Cole County or Callaway County or Boone County, I want this to be simple. And voters around here in mid-Missouri, it was just incredibly confusing. And I wanted to say, as soon as his almost 5-minute answer, when I asked him, explain this please to us like we are 2 years old, dude talked nonstop for 5 minutes. I wanted to say, okay, there's our answer. That's why we don't like this.
Yeah, I'd love to talk to like the Brianna Lennon of Alaska, like a local clerk who's having to deal with the tabulations. And I would think that a month from now, when they finally determine the winner, they would say something like, we've made a mistake. But I think talking to the folks on the ground after this thing really goes down, I think is going to be important in assessing ranked choice going forward.
Governor Parson is going to be joining us 7:35 this morning. State of Ag right now, as we're in the midst of the State Fair in Sedalia. As a matter of fact, Stephanie's going to be hobnobbing at the State Fair tomorrow. She's going to be checking in throughout the show here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. We do want to get to the daily DC rundown coming up 6:25, because there are some other things. We're talking about what's going on in Alaska, some other things there. John, what do you travel into, especially, I say you're coming from, if you're coming from Ashland, coming from Columbia, going into Jeff City might be a little crazy this morning. And, of course, listen to Wake Up Mid-Missouri all morning long. You get to hang out more with the show and find out what's happening here in Mid-Missouri and how these things are affecting us and how they are affecting you. Just like when Governor Parson's here at 7:35, this ag stuff. I know a lot of folks would go into the store, but we don't think about the importance of a $100 billion industry here in the state of Missouri, and the people who, kind of the peripheral businesses of the agriculture industry, the people who drive and supply goods and all of that. So he's here 7:35 this morning on Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9 The Eagle and KWOS. Coming up, daily DC.
Wyoming is entitled to have a representative that represents our interests, that listens to us, that addresses our issues. That isn't Liz Cheney, and the fact that that's where she went back to with her speech tonight, I think demonstrates that she really isn't listening to Wyoming now. She hasn't for quite some time, and that's why we needed to replace her.
That's the Dragon, Harriet Hageman. That's the name I'm giving her. She's spitting fire because there's a lot of folks talking about Liz Cheney. What a great speech that was, comparing herself to Abraham Lincoln. It's all BS, but Harriet Hageman, whew, what a hot take following that speech by Liz Cheney. And that's getting us into today's Daily DC Rundown with Stephanie Bell.
There's no mercy rule in Wyoming because I don't recall. I stopped watching. Once the score went running up, I was like, I think I know who the winner is going to be. So yeah, Liz Cheney got smoked yesterday. No surprise there. The local polls are saying that much. In Alaska, we're still kind of trying to figure out what's going on. They did pass ranked choice voting. This is their first big test of it. So 4 people will advance to this general election. Murkowski is on the list of advancing. Palin is on the list of advancing, but they will actually have 4 candidates total in that race. And so they're still tabulating.
So they've whittled it down. So at least Palin and Murkowski will move forward. And then as we fill out our March Madness brackets, we'll call them November Madness brackets with that ranked choice. That's what it sounds like. That just doesn't sound like fun at all.
It does. A couple court updates. So yesterday we knew that the government had to respond. I think, it was Monday. What's today?
Yeah,
Wednesday.
It's been like that. It's Wednesday.
Yeah, Monday the government had to respond to the motion to unseal the warrant. That no surprises, they said, yeah, we're not unsealing the warrant. The judge is calling them to the carpet, and Thursday they will have a hearing on whether or not to unseal the warrant. So action in that case, it's important, and all eyes, I think, are going to be, that case is happening in Florida on Thursday. Also today, Wednesday, Rudy Giuliani is talking to a special grand jury about his actions in Georgia, or maybe he's not talking. It's behind closed doors. We'll see what happens.
Can I go back in time a little bit with the, all the stuff with Trump over the years in the media?
Is this the tipping point? I know we've said it over and over.
You think this is a tipping point?
And over and over.
This is a tipping point.
And over and over.
It was the beginning of the end today.
The beginning of the end.
So it shows you 2 things there, 2 lessons there. The media and how they do. They send out their talking points to all the news outlets every morning, and everything was the thing to get Trump. It's going to be Russian collusion. It's going to be this. It's going to be the first impeachment. No, it's going to be this. And it goes on and on and on as it relates to some of the stuff with Rudy.
Exactly. Well, yesterday, Joe Biden did sign into law. We're not going to use, it's just going to be one of those things where I don't use the name. His massive spending bill, he did sign it. He said and I might agree with him here, right? He said, the American people won and the special interests lost. And I will say the big losers here, my kids, my grandkids. I mean, we just keep spending and spending and spending. And so, I would consider my kids and my grandkids very special interests of mine. And they for sure were big time losers yesterday. Of course, he's going to pay. And then the middle class, I think, he's going to get all these IRS agents. We're going to be burdened with, IRS agents knocking on our door, I think. And I'm appalled that this would even happen, and really disappointed in Joe Manchin for not sticking up for us.
By the way, when we talk about our kids, what's happening with our kids in schools locally here in the next several days? CNN talking to Secretary of Education about teacher shortages yesterday.
So I know you're hearing this from teachers. They have a myriad number of reasons why they are, leaving.
And she asked him, how did the Secretary of Education answer that question? That's coming up 5 minutes from now on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Are we at a crisis level here?
You know, I mentioned across the country, we're at the doorstep of a crisis.
We're at the doorstep of a crisis. Now, that is CNN pushing the Secretary of Education, Mikel Cordona, saying, hey, we've got teacher shortages and stuff like that. Are we in a crisis? And
isn't that a no-no word?
Crisis.
They wouldn't say crisis about the border. They said don't say it, right?
Nope. And I'll tell you, by the way, as a quick aside, CNN is several months ago, they said we're changing our news focus. We want to be more. And I got to tell you, man, seriously, and you guys, and I know producer Hannah and you guys kind of get on me sometimes but I follow the news outlets, the way they cover these stories. For example, last night, Liz Cheney getting clobbered in that election. It is amazing to see how every single news outlet, most of the progressive ones, they use that opportunity to go into the rich history about Trump and the January. Instead of just saying, hey, Liz Cheney lost her ass in this election last night, they go into and then the Trump and the elections and the January 6th. They go in big time because it's an opening. You know, it's like a warm introduction. By the way, you know, we still wet the bed because Trump was president. That's what it's like.
Oh, yeah.
It really is. So, yeah. And that is somebody in the Biden administration saying, crisis, we're at the doorstep of a crisis, teacher shortage levels. Jefferson City School District Superintendent Brian McGraw, and I know last week they did a big event in Jefferson City in Jefferson City schools, welcoming in a whole bunch of new teachers. Mm-hmm. He was talking to our news partners at ABC 17 last night, kind of regarding the numbers of teachers.
Yeah, we're super excited for the beginning of the school year. Over 100 new teachers that we welcomed here this week. We're always looking for good people, so I'd encourage them to look at our website, jcschools.us.
So if you're looking for a job. Now, I'm guessing if you want to teach little kids, there's some qualifications.
Just a few.
Just a few. And I wonder, the other thing I wonder, too, with kids going back to school, and of course it depends on where you are, but we saw big problems. Obviously, Columbia Public School District, that's been a big issue in the way they handled. And these people will continue to blame. It was coronavirus, whether they shut down businesses, government restrictions, issues on schools. It was the coronavirus. It absolutely 100% was not. You can take that to the bank. You can take that to Boone Central Bank. That was not coronavirus. That was government officials who disrupted businesses, destroyed businesses, who affected kids. Have we seen any test scores from kids on how we're doing?
Some.
Yeah, how do they look?
Not great.
Really? Was anybody saying that a couple of years ago? Marsh, do you recall anybody a couple of years ago going, hey, by the way, you know, you're getting these kids out of schools and then masks and all this. Do you remember, was there anybody, let me find another cliche they use in the national news outlets. Was there anybody sounding the alarm on what could happen? Do you recall that?
Well, and we forget like how long we've been doing this. And so, you know, I have a daughter that was in kindergarten when this whole thing started. And I saw we were about to enter our 4th COVID school year. And so she's never known school not COVID. And, you know, Southern Boone, I will give them credit. They've done better than most. But even last year when we kind of thought, okay, we've got this thing under control for the most part, you know, there was a month and we were laughing. I'm like, I think she went to school 2 days because she had COVID. Then there was like Thanksgiving and then, you know, and then she was quarantined and then they had, you know, all these issues. And I'm like, you can't learn much if you only go to school 2 days a month. And so, and I mean, so these, and luckily, you know, they've reduced the quarantine, I think, to 5 days. But if you've got siblings and it kind of rolls through your household, you know, you can be out for a while, and it's something we're going to have to, you know, still grapple with. But yeah, you can't learn in these conditions. And for somebody who's only done COVID school, I don't know. I mean,
COVID school.
I don't know what the impact of that is, and I don't think we as a society know yet. I think we know it's bad. Yeah. How bad, I think, is what is yet to be determined.
So I'm thinking of my grandkids in Idaho. They are 9, 7, and 5, and thank goodness, the 5-year-old Harper Lee. She is She's starting kindergarten this year, so she's never really had to deal on a school level. Now, the 7-year-old specifically, and fortunately in Idaho, it wasn't that bad because Idaho is run by a bunch of smart people. And when I say smart people, one of the most conservative states in the nation. You can put Alaska up there with like Utah and Alaska, independent and conservative and smart. So they didn't have to deal with that a whole lot. But I'm like your kids.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about this, 2 years, you think about somebody in second grade, third grade even. You went to kindergarten for half a day and you draw pictures and stuff and think, school's awesome, man. It's coloring and nap time at 1 o'clock. And then you're gone, in effect, for a year and a half, 2 years, whatever it is. And then you don't recognize any of the kids because they were wearing masks over their face and you can't know what's going on. And now, here in the next few weeks, they're going back into school like, what is this?
We just got some teacher assignments, and I think my kids are like, I don't care. I'm happy as long as it's not my mom.
Man.
They did not enjoy, when I had to homeschool them for a hot minute. But, yeah, no, it's really bad. And I think, I think the test scores are, because it's cumulative, right? And if you don't learn what you need to know in first grade and they advance you to second grade and you're behind, it's really hard to catch up and it just keeps piling on. And so I think some of these things, I mean, we're going to have kids get into middle school and get into high school and be, it's really behind.
Yeah. And do you celebrate? And number one, if your math ain't much better than your English, we said, well, 52% of the kids in math are good at it. Do you understand that number? Because we're dealing with math now. 52%, 42%.
And if you just mark C on the whole test, don't you isn't there like a certain baseline? I mean, I just feel like 50%, we can do so much better.
Or you could move to Columbia where your child will get points. I think they get a passing grade just for writing their name on the paper. And I'm not exaggerating. It's a real thing. I want to read some of this statement, guys, regarding test scores. From Desi. Districts and charter schools across the state continue to face, and I love the wording here, unique challenges during the 2021 school year. Nothing about this past school year was typical. We must remain vigilant in educating our students, and kind of like you're saying, John. Different boilerplate, different year, but maybe kind of a new reason.
They didn't have one.
And we want them to do well, by the way. We want these kids, we want math scores to be better than 52%. And we want English. We want kids talking good English. These kids, they got to talk gooder if they're going to succeed.
And the education establishment, typically they just blame it on poor people. They're like, well, that's a poorer school district. And so, of course, their test scores would be lower. And they're like, as long as you, and I had people say this to me, well, as long as you live in the right, as long as you live in the richer neighborhood, your school will be better and your kids will be fine. That is no way to have an education establishment, to decide the quality of your education on your zip code and to lock people into a lifetime of poverty, and just to accept the fact that if you live in a lower income district or area that you're just going to get lesser than schools. That's a horrible way to, I guess what should we really expect from government schools? But it's a really excellent argument for some school choice and some charter schools.
And I'm wondering if you have kids or grandkids, like what's your mindset as we're getting ready to go back to school? Usually it's one of excitement, and hopefully, listen, I hope we are far away from that stuff, okay? I hope we are far, far away from that stuff. But if you're a parent, you're a grandparent, I mean, how... you're going into the new year, besides the thing with school expenses and all that, all the stuff that goes with the parent and kids going back to school. And then you've got, in some school districts, you've got some of these battles, especially if you look at what's happened in Columbia over the past couple of years. 573-874-9390. David is in Perry, Missouri this morning. What's up, David?
Hey, good morning. I'll tell you what, you can throw all the money you want to and all these educators and And I'm not a believer in the deal about the poverty level. I know a lot of country schools that they don't have any trouble having valedictorian and stuff like that. It is the teachers. If the colleges would teach these teachers right, you can't have a good football team without a good coach. And, you can have the best players in the world, but you got to have a good coach to teach these things. If you have teachers that do not do their job of teaching these kids and just let them go, let them run, be on their cell phones, do whatever. And I'm talking about the teachers as well. What good is a teacher if all they're going to do is herd the kids around in class, get their money, and go home?
David,
they
thank
have
you.
got to be teachers.
Got to be teachers. And thank you. Most teachers, they do it for the passion. And this Miguel Cardona, Secretary of Education under Joe, went on and said, well, we got to pay our teachers more. Well, which comes first, the chicken or the egg? Do a better job. And by the way, I want to be very clear here. What we've seen happen over the past couple of years is not an indictment on all teachers. It's mostly about the teacher unions and those woke policies. Randy Weingarten, head of the USA, head of the National Teachers Union, going on Twitter and misspelling words. That is a very bad look. Welcome into Wake Up Mid-Missouri. This is Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
Highlight of your day yesterday?
Highlight of my day? Oh, we had the Board of Aldermen meeting last night. It was really great. We actually got into a really healthy debate, had some state reps show up, and I think it's good.
Stephanie Bell is an older woman in the city of Ashland. And so we cover because it is kind of a bigger topic, not just affecting Ashland, but kind of on a statewide level. There's producer Hannah. What was your big thing yesterday? Pumpkin spice coffee?
Yeah, listener Chris dropped off an entire box of pumpkin spice coffee for me, so that was pretty sweet.
All right, Marsh, what about you? What was your big thing? All right. Hey, by the way, and Hannah doesn't know this yet, one of the things we do here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri is every morning, 7:25-ish, we do What's Hot with Hannah. Just something that's cool, something people are talking about, after work or whatever, and it had to do with pumpkin spice, and I've got something for What's Hot with Hannah-ish, kind of. We'll do that at 7:25 this morning here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Coming up about 5 minutes from now, there could be potentially a new, by the way, we have some traffic issues. If you're seeing this, please let us know. 573-874-9390, mile marker 108 and 109 on westbound I-70. And with that, Dwayne texted, this is what road construction crews deal with already. It's not even 7 o'clock, Dwayne said. I've been flipped off twice this morning as part of a road crew. Water bottle thrown at my piece of equipment. Please be careful. Coming up 5 minutes from now, a new king, maybe, for late night TV. And I think this is something that, we'd really dig because it's not
In our nation's 246-year history, there has never been an individual who is a greater threat to our republic than Donald Trump.
Dick could not help Liz last night. So we knew this is not the big story this morning as it relates to national politics. We knew that Liz was going to lose. We knew Stephanie and I had been pouring through some local media. When I say local media, some of the media in the Wyoming news outlets. We weren't looking at national polling numbers. We had been looking through local numbers, and it looked bad, and it was as advertised. Even her dad in the good Cheney family name, which I don't know how. I wonder how the Cheney legacy lives on in D.C. now, following this. And that's not even the biggest story. The margin of loss, I think, as expected. A couple years ago, I think she got 70% of the vote, if not more than 70% of the vote. Last night, tables were turned. Her opponent in this primary. Huge numbers. But really it was and not even just what she said afterwards. Because afterwards, I don't know if you heard, but she did this big flowery speech, and there's a lot of folks that don't know any better going, oh my God, this was so beautiful. We think it's already like the Gettysburg Address. We already think it's like the D-Day address. We think it's like one of the greatest speeches in the history of politics, in the history of mankind. She is comparing herself to Abraham Lincoln. Check this out.
An original champion of our party, Abraham Lincoln, was defeated in elections for the Senate and the House before he won the most important election of all. Lincoln ultimately prevailed. He saved our Union.
So before he won the most important election of all, he saved our Union. He won the presidency.
Right. I can't get over these comments. Trump was, her whole shtick is that following the 2020 election, Trump was delusional. Mm-hmm. And here she is last night. Now, she has, I would say, somewhat of a point that, if you equate money with influence, she's sitting on a boatload of cash. And why she didn't spend it all, maybe because she knew she was going to lose. But apparently, she's got like $7 million in the bank. In her campaign war chest, and people are talking now, what's she going to do? And she said a little bit like, hey, I'm going to get an organization up and going. I'm going to basically bash Trump and like talk about what's next for the Union and basically promote herself, I think. But yeah, she's got a ton of cash. So she's not, I don't think we're done with her. I think we're going to be stuck with her for a while.
Marsh, did you hear what she said? Even in interviews prior to, she knew she was going to get her rear end handed to her. She knew that. We all knew that. Yeah. Well, and then check this out. And I don't know if you heard any of the stuff leading up to, even prior to the numbers. She was chatting with CBS. Check this out.
Well, look, I think today, no matter what the outcome is certainly the beginning of a battle that is going to continue, is going to go on.
So is she in your mind, Marcia, is she signaling, hey, it's coming. I'm going on to the next thing. The bat.
She's going to come to Missouri, and her and John Wood are going to be on every stage across every small town. She could, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. By the way, and that reminds me, we're going to have somebody here from the Heartlander, heartlandernews.com. Great thing. They did a phenomenal story on this John Wood. John Wood. He's do we call him an independent, John? Is he independent, undeclared?
We call him the Missouri Liz Cheney.
Boom. The Heartlander did a Yeah. The Heartlander News, if you go to heartlandernews.com, they did a great story on this. And the guy who it's about, let me make sure I'm phrasing this appropriately. I say a great story, and it's not necessarily that it's going. The guy's name is Michael Ryan. He's who wrote the article. It is about, okay, so do you know when this guy moved to Missouri? Do you know where his kids are going? Despite the fact that he has a Missouri address, do you know where his kids are enrolled in school? And it's fascinating. And listen, I'm one of those guys, and I get knocked sometimes, and that might be as we all begin our new friendship here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. By the way, we appreciate you being here. Let me introduce you to Mr. John Marsh. John, how are you today? Excellent. Thank you for asking. Totally unscripted. There's Stephanie. Stephanie.
Great.
Good morning.
Stephanie Bell. Producer Hannah is here.
Good morning. And John just stepped into a pile, and he doesn't even realize it.
You know what you did, John? Now you're about to find out. By the way, coming up 7, we do this every morning, 7:25ish. What's hot with Hannah? We did something yesterday on the show, and what Hannah does is just kind of like what's trending, what people here in mid-Missouri are talking about. It's just kind of fun, different stuff. We step away from the nastiness, politics, and the local economic stuff and things like that for a few minutes. And I got something for y'all. It's 7:25ish when you do What's Hot with Hannah.
So what I'm hearing is you're hijacking my segment.
I might not hijack it, but I might open the car door and go, hey, can I get in for a minute?
Huh.
So I won't completely hijack it. I will ask very nicely before I hijack your segment. So you want to check that out, 7:25-ish. My name is Branden Rathert. Something we can do for you, please, 874-9390, 874-9390. We have a text here from a listener, a new listener, by the way, and he wants to know, do you share texts on the air? Does that answer the question? Okay, let's move forward. So the Liz Cheney stuff, we're done there. It'll be interesting to see. Stephanie's pointing out the money she's got, presidential run, all that good stuff. This Inflation Reduction Act, you know what it doesn't do?
And reduce inflation.
As a matter of fact, Stephanie's so upset about it. And Biden signed it yesterday. So just so you know, there's going to be this big national tour. He's going to go into all, look at what we did. Look at this accomplishment. The Congressional Budget Office says it doesn't. And so I'm trying to, how do we bottom line this for you? You're going to work and maybe you're going to have to go through that 6354 interchange this morning going into Jefferson City from Columbia. When's that going to hit us, John? So basically this morning, about the time Gary Nolan's coming on is when they're going to start putting up stuff that might get in your way. And then so I would imagine then tonight when the Randy Tobler show is here, same thing. You're going to have to deal with some of those issues.
I can't wait.
I know. What do you do in a situation like that? We get that stuff in life that is distasteful, really. I mean, you can do something about it. You can take Stephanie. Stephanie's got a secret back entrance to get in there.
Don't tell people our secrets, our local secrets.
Producer Hannah will be out there this afternoon wearing an orange vest with a sign that will say Stephanie's secret entrance into JC this way.
I wonder if MoDOT will let me borrow one of the electronic signs.
And if it's not Hannah, if you don't see Hannah out there this afternoon, by the way, you're going to see Stephanie I tomorrow in Jefferson City.
Yes, there's a big event in downtown called Thursday Night Live. There's some live music, some food, some fun. We'll be down there.
All right, let me work through my third by the way here. Sorry. We get, is it Builder Bob? Who's the MoDOT?
Barrel Bob.
We get Barrel Bob out there. He's been hanging out at the bridge, the Missouri River Bridge at Rocheport. Saw him the other day. Builder Bob's out there.
Barrel Bob.
And the other thing is
He's made of barrels. Come on.
Well, you might see Builder Bob out there, too. Police are reminding, especially in Jefferson City, so some of the parochial schools I know here in mid-Missouri, they're going back to school. And you know how it is when we were little kids. We used to lose our minds. Remember there was a time we got excited for the first day of school? You got your new duds and new friends and all that good stuff.
Oh, my kids love school.
I loved getting new school supplies, and I'd organize my backpack days before. It was a big deal.
Yeah.
Man, you would have thought I was in the military the day before school because I was laying out, and here's the shirt I'm going to wear, and I got my pants all folded, and I got the belt and the book. I mean, and then by day 2, you're just taking everything and putting it in the back. Screw this, man. Day 2 already. But there's a lot of kids going back to school now, so you know how kids are. They lose their minds. So if they're crossing streets, getting to buses, if they have a bus to take them to school.
Fair point.
Which has been a big issue, not just hiring teachers, but hiring bus drivers right now. Hey, it's great. We got schools, Jefferson City schools. They have 100 new teachers. I think Michelle Baum started telling the media yesterday in Columbia they've got a couple of hundred new teachers and something they do every year. That's beautiful. But if you don't have the bus drivers...
I told you my kid came home one day last year complaining about the bus driver. Well, the bus driver says we should pick up the trash. I'm like, if that bus driver tells you to wipe the floor, like get on your hands and knees and mop the floor, you do that. We need him more than ever. And whatever he says, you need to do it.
So bus driver shortages with teachers, and not just on a national level. We heard earlier on CNN. CNN was pressing the Secretary of Education saying, how would you tab this? And he says it is a growing concern. I think a growing crisis is at our doorstep. It's not there yet, but it's going to be knocking, and we're seeing some issues locally. You know, is anybody, while I'm thinking of shortages of bus drivers, shortages of teachers, shortages in local law enforcement, really, I know in Columbia, they're always looking for good folks. Boone County Sheriff's Department, they have reimagined some of their, it used to be you had to look a certain way, no facial hair, no tattoos. And I know several law enforcement agencies across mid-Missouri have said, okay, you know what, which is cool. And I like the thing about the tattoos. It's like, okay, not that big of a deal.
Yeah, and now mustaches are kind of a thing. They are. I saw it on someone's social media the other day, and they're like, I can't believe mustaches are coming back. And I hadn't really thought about it. Then I go walking through the Ashland Mosers, 5 mustaches. So many mustaches I started counting. It's a thing.
Facial hair for dudes is like makeup for women.
That's a good way of putting it. And is there something about, especially a mustachioed cop? Somebody in a cop hat with a mustache. I don't know what it is. God bless your heart for being a servant to community. But something about seeing a cop in a police officer's hat with a mustache, there's just something on that. By the way, has everybody moved on from the defund the police movement? Are we all past that now?
God, I hope so.
Please, let's do it. All right, coming up, welcome to the show. We are glad you're here. 573-874-9390 off the text. Darcy, is Branden talking about Bob the Builder? Look, we need to get a Bob the Builder built so we can put it out there at Stephanie's secret entrance into Jefferson City. Fact check from Tim. Highway 53 is east-west, so the detour will be east on 54.
It's not confusing at all.
Runs in circles. All right, coming up, 7:20.
I'm going for a 2-for-1 special today. We've got a Florida man and a dumb criminal.
Good morning, 7:25-ish, which means it's
Whoa, it's 7:26.
time for What's Hot with Hannah, and Hannah is startled. So for I don't know how many years we've been doing What's Hot with Hannah now. For several years, we've been doing What's Hot with Hannah, 7:25-ish every morning. A lot of times we're running late, so hence the 7:25-ish, and usually it ends up how it works out. We are consistent in our inconsistency. Hopefully that's one of the things you'll give us some patience on here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. We are consistent with our inconsistency. And so it's for years it just plays out that it's been happening at 7:28. So coming in at 7:26 for What's Hot with Hannah at 7:25.
Now that you've wasted a full minute.
It's 7:25-ish, which means it's
7:27.
time for What's Hot with Hannah. Before we get into your thing, can we do my thing?
See, this is why you were almost on time, is because you had something to add.
Yes, what was your thing yesterday?
Yesterday, I was just excited that pumpkin spice season was starting earlier than it did last year.
Chris brought in a gift to the studios here for Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Got you spiced coffee and all that. And
He did, and I offered to share, and you weren't interested.
I am not. Pumpkin spice is to me what a Trump supporter is to Clinton. Deplorable.
Please tell me these are the Martha Stewart CBD gummies.
Oh, man.
Hey, I'm holding, man. No, you were talking about one of the things that was coming out for pumpkin spice. And here's the thing. I know we have a whole bunch. If you're a new listener, you may have gotten the wrong impression about me yesterday. We tease each other on the show because we love each other. We're all friends. We hang out together.
Yeah.
And so sometimes, but when you're new, you might have a sense of humor, and somebody like, I don't get it because that person's new and you don't understand. They're just trying to be funny. And so I hope I didn't come off rude yesterday and talking about my distaste for pumpkin spice stuff. So I picked this up.
Yay!
For y'all.
Thank you.
Pumpkin spice Oreo cookies.
See, and I didn't know those were out yet. That's one of the things I talked about yesterday. I thought it was coming out within the next couple weeks.
So that's the thing. So I'm at the store and I'm like, I'm looking for them. It's not like I just came across these by accident. I was making an effort. I'm like, let me make good with the girls here on the show. And I'm like, well, they don't have Oreo cookies because Hannah said that's probably going to be a while. And they had one. Think about this, a Walmart in a college town before classes start. I couldn't find ramen noodles, but I found a box of rare pumpkin spiced Oreo cookies.
I'm kind of glad you couldn't find the pumpkin spice cup of noodles that I talked about yesterday, because that I might draw the line at pumpkin spice flavored things at ramen noodles. That might be where I draw the line.
What's hot with Hannah today?
Oh, wow, we do have time for it.
Sorry.
So in the last break, Stephanie came through my studio. I said, how much time do you think I'm really going to have to do What's Hot with Hannah? She said, basically none.
Is it worth doing? Does it deserve some time?
It's just a real quick, it's a 2-for-1, a Florida man story and a dumb criminal story. A drug dealer had the wrong number, and he accidentally texted a sheriff's deputy asking if he wanted to buy some cocaine, and he got in trouble for that.
I love it. What's Hot with Hannah? We do it about this time every single morning here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Coming up, Governor Mike Parson joins us here on the show. Inflation Reduction Act. Does this do anything for you? Might get his take. And then how the agriculture economy is affecting you, too.
Are you personally comfortable as an economist calling it the Inflation Reduction Act?
That's CNN's Kate Bolden asking Cecilia Rouse. She's in the Biden White House. She's asked, hey, so Joe signed the Inflation Reduction Act. Are you comfortable with calling it that? CNN is saying it does not reduce inflation. Disingenuous and flat out really lies in my mind. I just don't know of a polite way to put it. It just doesn't do that. Welcome into the show. This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri. I am Branden Rathert, joined by Stephanie Bell, Brian Houseworth, producer Hannah, John Marsh, and I want to talk about our economy and how this is immediately affecting us. Want to bring in Governor Mike Parson, G57. Welcome into the show. Let's start with the agriculture aspect of the economy here in Missouri. What we saw signed in D.C. yesterday. That's BS, and I apologize for that language. I just don't know any other way to put it. How is the economy of our agriculture industry doing right now? $100 billion industry, biggest industry in Missouri. How are we looking there?
Hey, Brand, first of all, good morning to everybody. Hey, and I want to say congratulations because I hear you're kind of expanding a little bit. Your station, everything is like KWOS down here in Jeff City. Is that right now?
That is accurate, and thank you so much on behalf of Steph and Brian and John Marsh and Hannah. We appreciate you noticing. We appreciate your kind comments. So we've known for a while. Here's the thing, Governor, and you know us. You've been hanging out with all of us for a while. We don't like to just come on the radio and complain about progressive policies. One of the things that Stephanie and I have made a concerted effort to do is say, okay, so this happened in D.C. today. This is how it affects you. This is the reality of it. And so we've had this expanding audience, and things were getting out of hand. We were getting a whole bunch of younger listeners, and the next obvious step was to go on to KWOS. So, yeah, we've expanded the entire family, man. We're pretty excited about it.
That's pretty cool in today's time with the media.
So our show is expanding. The economy is not, however.
Let me say, I know we're live on the radio, so I'll be careful what I say because I'd like to really say what I think about Washington, D.C. sometimes. But it's just a mess. I have literally never seen so many mistakes that have been made in Washington, D.C. under this administration. And just take politics to the side for just a second. I know some people will say, well, it's all about politics. I mean, it's just one misstep after another. I mean, either the president really is totally out of touch with people, or the people in his administration just don't understand. I mean, and you talking about agriculture, and one thing I do know a little bit about that. But, you know, we're in the hayfields this year running 3 tractors, and you're almost talking $400 to $500 a day to put diesel in those tractors. You talk about fertilizer prices that have tripled, costs, just getting parts, just feed, trying to take care of a farm, let alone just everyday life. So the reality of it is groceries are high. Fuel prices are high. Inflation is setting in. And we're fortunate. I will say this. I always want to be optimistic as much as I can when people are listening. But we'll weather the storm better than most states, but there is a storm. I mean, you know, we got to get through this, and we got some ideas how to do that, and we're going to try to help people out a little bit here in the next 30 days.
All right. Joining us this morning here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri, Missouri Governor Mike Parson.
Governor, thank you so much. We appreciate you joining us live. I know a little bit later today you're going to be down at the Sustainable Ozark Partnership in Waynesville and then on to the Missouri State Fairgrounds in Sedalia. You will meet with commodity groups today about the special session likely this fall. What will your message be to those commodity groups about the tax cut and also about the tax credit extension?
Yeah, you know, it was unfortunate this year, and sometimes this is what happens in this arena up here, but things got caught up in negotiations or leverages of other bills. But 8 different times this year, the legislative body and myself as governor signed tax credit extensions into law. And the only one that didn't get the follow through was agriculture, the number one industry in the state, and was totally just held to a different standard. And look, as long as I'm governor, I'm going to make sure agriculture gets treated like everybody else does in the state. I'm not going to give businesses in this state an advantage over the entire agriculture community. And it's unfortunate it got down to that. But look, if there's ever a time to help agriculture, when you start looking at the obligations they have, whether it's through the food sector, through the energy sector, through just the everyday process it takes us to live, we got to be able to help that industry just like we would anybody else. And unfortunately, they got the short end of the stick, and I want to get that fixed. And we can, and I believe we will. On the tax cut side of it, let me just say this. We have been fortunate in this state. You guys know all along, I tried to take a balanced approach. I tried to keep businesses open. I tried to keep people working, trying to build up the workforce of tomorrow. In the 50 years we've been tracking unemployment in the state of Missouri, we're now at the lowest in the history of our state at 2.5. So which means a lot of people are coming back to work, and they are getting in the economy, and they are starting to generate revenue. What I want to do, though, the state has done fairly well financially. We're in good shape. We're fully funding education, fully funding health care, broadband, infrastructure, workforce development. You can go on down the list. And we still have money. So if there was ever a time that people need help in this state, we need to give them a tax cut, a significant tax cut that they will feel it in their paychecks come January. So we really want to get some of those things done. I want to help some of our people on the low-income side, our seniors, that get a little piece of pie on this. And if we put money back in people's pockets, they'll invest it right back in Missouri, and it's a win-win for all of us. But if we leave hundreds of millions of dollars on the table up here in Jeff City, somebody is going to spend it for special interest or their own pet projects. And we can do this. It'll be the largest tax cut in our state's history, but now's the time to do it to help everybody out a little bit. Yeah, well, I go back to how I started. Every other business got 6 years that we passed through the General Assembly. The reality of it takes about 2 years to get one of these programs up and running. So you can't even feasibly, nobody's going to make an investment using this, knowing that it may expire in 2 years. Because it almost takes 18 months as a minimum to get some of these things started. So the reality of it is you couldn't even put it in place, and people won't invest in that. So that was problematic, number one. The other thing that's kind of going to get down the weeds a little bit, but there was also a bill put in there on recycled shingles, which absolutely has nothing to do with agriculture whatsoever. So that was problematic that was in there. It's just, I'm going to go back to the same, what I've said all along. If we're going to give corporations the same advantages or advantage to be able to do their business in the state, which we want to do, and I'm glad to do that for them, but I'm not going to let agriculture take a second seat to everybody else. I mean, we got to help these farmers and ranchers right now across the state.
All right, Governor Mike Parson hanging out with us on Wake Up Mid-Missouri this morning here on KWOS and 93.9 The Eagle.
So I am headed up to Sedalia this evening, and I will see you in the morning at the ham breakfast. What's your favorite part about the breakfast, and what can we expect tomorrow?
I just think it's always a good morning event. I mean, people are upbeat when they go to the state fair. It's early in the morning. And probably going to be one of the coolest mornings we ever had for a while at the state fair. So it's kind of crazy. We may be wearing jackets. I don't know. But, just a lot of good people all around the state come in there and enjoy that morning. And I just think a lot of it does with fellowship. And you got a lot of politicians there. You got a lot of people from across the state, universities and everybody. It's just a fun time. And then you get to go out there and you get to brag on Missouri agriculture, which is an easy one for me. But just a lot of good people at those events of the morning. So I always look forward to it. You kind of put the jeans back on, the boots, and kind of get back to your roots a little bit for me, I guess.
It's like a casual dress Friday, because I have never been into the governor's office, and he's just sitting there on the desk with his cowboy boots and Wranglers on. I've never seen you like that, Governor, so we look forward to these types of events. You've been putting the grandkids on the tractors down at the farm?
Oh, man, as much as I can. I miss seeing them all the time. But I got a little 3-year-old. She's kind of into the swimming pools right now, the little plastic ones you get at the dollar store, for about $20. So,
yeah,
the only problem is her biggest thing is throwing water on her gramps. And I'm saying, now, honey, you got to understand, I'm the governor. You can't do that. So about 5 seconds later, I get water dumped on me. So it really doesn't matter to her.
I saw my grandkids a couple of weeks ago in Idaho. I was out there for 10 days, and little Harper, she's 5 years old. Her and I were sitting and coloring. I don't know if you get to do this kind of stuff, Governor, with your grandkids. I got to tell you, when I was a kid, I loved to color in coloring books. And I love it because me and little Harper Lee sitting there eating Twinkies, coloring in the Disney Ice Princess. I don't know which Disney princess it was, but we're coloring one of those coloring books, man. And it just makes your heart smile.
You know what? Oh gosh, we talked about this all morning long.
All right.
People pretty quick, but.
I want to fact check you real quick on something you said. Best part about the ham breakfast is the people. It's the food. It's the ham. That's the best part of the ham breakfast.
Yeah, well, the food's a given there. That's exactly what you're going there for. But I will say this: my littlest granddaughter, 3 years old, she did her first little painting at her house the other day. She had water paint out there, and well, I couldn't really tell you what it is, but anyhow, it's from her, so it didn't matter. But anyhow, I've got that framed up in my office. It's sitting in my office right now because it was the first one, and I dated it to make sure I remember that, So,
man,
I've got her artwork already, so it's pretty cool.
Kind of stuff that makes our heart smile here in the middle of the week. Before we let you go, Governor, we are very appreciative of your time. We're appreciative of your kind words. Minute here, is there anything else that you would like to add to be of service to the citizens of Missouri?
Yeah, you know what? I would tell everybody out there, keep the faith. Keep doing what we do in Missouri. This whole country's in a crazy position right now, the way things are going. But I'm telling you what, we're still doing the right things in the state. And it's because we got good people every day doing the right thing. And it's why I love being the governor of this state so much. And just stay the course. We're going to get through all this, and we're still going to maintain who we are in this state and keep our values intact. So keep the faith, what I would tell everybody.
And you said it all when you said, I got my granddaughter a swimming pool from the dollar store and it cost $20. You said it all. Governor Parson, as always, thank you for your time here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
All right. Keep it going, guys. See you later.
We'll see you tomorrow. Coming up about 5 minutes from now here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Did you hear the bizarre way the Cardinals last
Who wants to be the hero?
The winning run is Kisner at third. 5 infielders for the Rockies, 2 outfielders. The windup, the pitch. O'Neill is hit by the pitch. A Redbird winner! A Redbird winner. The Cardinals win with just 1 hit in the 9th inning.
So last night, Busch Stadium, Cardinals, Rockies. Now the Cardinals are first place, NL Central, and we've still got half of August, all of September to go. And goes to the bottom of the 9th inning, a little bit of a back and forth game. Scores tied, bottom of the 9th, 4-4. And the bases get loaded. And then Tyler O'Neill's up to bat. And the Cardinals win because he gets hit by a pitch.
Hey, a win's a win. I'll take it.
I know. That's kind of like, yeah. It's a peculiar way for a ball game to end in the 9th inning.
Sure.
When you're in first place, but you're right. A win is a win. Welcome into the show. Something we can do for you, 573-874-9390, 874-9390. You'll be able to go back and check out the conversation we just had with Governor Mike Parson, getting ready for the fair and some important things there. You know, it's not just, and we kind of joke. By the way, Stephanie Bell's going to be there all day tomorrow. Your favorite. We fact-check the governor a little bit. And here on this show, so we have a couple of different ways of doing fact checks. We have something called the O'Reilly factor, which is something that we do to check out what people are saying. And then the other thing that we did, because remember when the Biden administration, they wanted to put together this ministry of disinformation, the ministry of truth, and the deciders were going to be people in the Biden administration. They were going to decide what was true. They were going to decide what you should know, what news you consume. So we have our own ministry of truth here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
And no one is safe from the fact check.
Nobody, including
us.
We get fact check all the time, and that's cool because you know what? We're human beings, and sometimes we make mistakes. We don't. And listen, any of these people that pretend to be a know-it-all, and I know everything, and this is the way it is, believe me, they're wrong, okay? Everybody, we're human beings. So one of the things that we've done here since me and Stephanie Bell here, who sits to my left, by the way, you can watch us on our YouTube channel, which is Wake Up Mid-Missouri. You see producer Hannah. We all make mistakes. Now, there's some people here on this show that make more mistakes than others.
JJ.
JJ, in case you're new, JJ here on the show is
Branden Rathert.
Because I have something in common with Joe Biden. I am truly forgetful because I'm getting old. But the thing is, we try to be honest about the stuff and, the fact checks, and we make mistakes. Here's the difference. We admit them, and it's okay. It's not that big of a deal. We will never sit here and pretend like we know it all.
Like last Friday when I accidentally said that there was going to be a World War I veteran on the honor flight that was returning.
Whoops.
I definitely meant World War II.
But you all are the first people to point it out. When I said de-thaw, and someone said, well, if you're de-thawing, isn't that the same as refreezing, Steph? And I was like, ooh.
Oh, yeah, the Wake Up family keeps us humble, that's for sure.
Yes.
So we are never immune from running our own BS through the ministry of truth and disinformation here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. So we want to fact check something Governor Mike Parson said. Stephanie Bell, who's going to be at the state fair tomorrow, she'll be checking in. By the way, she's not going to be out. Well, she's going to be out riding the rides and doing all that stuff. But when she's checking in tomorrow, she's going to be in the ham breakfast. And who's not going to be there is probably a better way to put it.
Yeah, everyone's going to be there. And, we talked about what the governor's favorite thing was. And some people's favorite thing about the fair is because it's not a Republican event, right? Like, there'll be Democrats there as well. People who just got off of a primary fighting really hard against one another. And so someone said the people watching is great because all of these people, it is a really happy event, everyone. Yeah. But to watch all these people have to smile and like, be in proximity of people that they hate.
Yeah. It's hard to do, smile and shake hands when so-and-so from the conservative caucus is standing over your left shoulder, staring down your neck. So fact check on the governor when he says best part of the fair was the people and all this at the ham breakfast.
It's the food.
It's the food. Coming up, State Rep Travis Fitzwater. He's going to be joining us about 8:05.
Speaking at Gettysburg of the great task remaining before us, Lincoln said that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom.
That's Liz Cheney hinting at a presidential run 2024. She did it all day long leading up to her concession speech. So the big news wasn't that she lost. We knew she was going to lose. The big news wasn't by how much she lost. I think she got maybe 30% of the vote. You look at how she won the office several years ago. She got, I think, well over 70% of the vote. How quickly the tides have turned. But really, the bigger news was hey, and I'm probably going to run 2024. And that probably wasn't the biggest news. She spent about 2 minutes comparing herself to Abraham Lincoln in her concession speech. Local state rep Travis Fitzwater, who, by the way, in a state Senate race less than 3 months from now. I want to bring in Travis Fitzwater, reps Callaway County in Jefferson City. I want to ask you first, Mr. Fitzwater, your race, this primary race, it wasn't like a completely done deal for you. And I'm thinking Liz Cheney here, she probably wrote her concession speech a year ago. Did you have a concession speech ready just in case you didn't win your primary?
No, we were pretty focused on just knocking every door humanly possible, expending every effort to get through the end of the election. We weren't concerned about any of that. We were just trying to win the race. We worked extremely hard, and we were. Our loss was a foregone conclusion to many. So it was really interesting. I think it's something, money can't buy elections. She had a lot of money. Her opponent did not. Sometimes it's just really how the electorate feels in a moment.
Well, what's interesting about the money the other night, I was at a fundraiser for James Musgraves. He's running for the seat currently held by Sarah Walsh, and Chuck Basie was there, State Rep Cherie Tolson-Reich. She was there, and Sarah Walsh, Michael Hafner was there, some of our local state representatives all at this pizza joint in Columbia. And Sarah Walsh tells a very compelling stories about the reality of campaigning, especially in a state representative race. She says the money and the signs and all that's great, but it's going house to house. And when you rep a large rural area, it is sun up to sun down. And if you don't have anybody helping you on your campaign, guess who it is? It's you campaigning. I mean, it was pretty profound. Yeah,
you got to do the work. I mean, even in a state Senate race, we knocked thousands of doors in 4.5 counties. I mean, you've got to get out there. You got to do the work. You got to introduce yourself to people, and campaigns are really hard. Now that one's different. I think there was a lot of trends against Liz Cheney. Most of these legislative races, it's just hard work. The guy that's going to replace me in the state house that's likely going to win his election in November, I don't even know how many doors he knocked, thousands of doors in our local area, and he was up against a guy that was really well known in Fulton in the district. And he just outworked him, and the results showed the election night.
Well, and as you said, some people had really written you off, and now that you've won the Senate race, you're kind of the it guy, in particular because there's factions still in the Senate. Now, just this week, we heard that, the Conservative caucus is disbanding. But as you approach, the Missouri Senate, what are you looking at, and have the different factions, to the extent they still exist, have they approached you like, hey, we could use another number on our side?
Yeah, I've talked to a lot of people in the Senate, Republicans in particular, about I'm just trying to get my mind wrapped around being in the Senate. First of all, I think what's important is that I learn what I'm up against, learn what the rules are, learn the relationships that I have to be effective to represent my area well. And I think we'll spend a lot of time on that. And that will be, talking to everybody. I had a conversation with a couple of Conservative caucus members. I had most of them, actually. And I've talked to Republican leadership. I've talked to people all over the political spectrum so far to just try to wrap my mind around how we can be the most effective senator possible. And these dynamics, as a freshman coming in, we're just trying to figure out how we can be the most effective. And I think that just is done by building those relationships so that you're a trusted member going in January. So just kind of trying to ignore some of the noise because I don't have any control over that, and be building relationships as best I can.
Representative, we appreciate your time. You have a libertarian opponent, Catherine Dreyer is her name, but for all intents and purposes, you'll win that race, barring something miraculous, because you had thousands of votes. She had 104. Your district, it's huge. You look at this new senatorial district. It's Callaway, it's Montgomery, goes all the way to Pike County. And my question is this: you don't have a Democratic opponent. Mike Bernskatter doesn't have a Democratic opponent. Years ago, not that long ago, Democrats had all these rural seats. Today, they're all Republican. All Republican. There are a couple of blue House districts here in Columbia. What happened during that time to where all these rural seats went from blue to red, and I mean ruby red?
I think that they're a combination of things, but I think one is these blue dog Democrats, these rural Democrats that were pro-life and pro-gun, have their party has left them, and they have become Republicans because we're the party of freedom and protecting life, and those are things that they can't be supportive of as Democrats anymore, which is just a really interesting change in dynamic in the political spectrum in rural areas around the country, not just in Missouri. But I think for my district in particular, you have a lot of folks that were, union workers, union laborers that had been Democrats for a long time. Their families were Democrats. They grew up, these Kennedy Democrats that were conservative on a number of issues, but socially conservative as well. I think that the party's just left them, and now they're seeking somebody who's common sense, that speaks to the everyday man. And I think Trump really kind of changed that dynamic in a big way, because he spoke to everyday workers, and he spoke to a group of people that felt like they hadn't been heard in a really long time. And so I think that just that's built the groundswell in rural areas of Missouri, and you see that playing out in the numbers.
All right, State Representative Travis Fitzwater. He reps people in parts of Cole and Callaway counties, and if you've got to identify it, they call it District 49. He's joining us this morning here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
I hope so. And can I just say one thing really quick too? Congratulations on all this new stuff you guys got going. It's so funny to hear so many familiar voices all rattling off questions. It's hilarious. But congrats to all of you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Fitzwater. What Mr. Fitzwater is referring to. So this is Wake Up Mid-Missouri, and for a long time, we've been serving Mid-Missouri. We've recently kind of expanded that, so we know we've got a lot of new friends in the listening area this morning. We know we've got a lot of newer, younger listeners coming in as we've kind of explained, hey, these things that happen in D.C., here's how this affects you. See, we're not just complaining about stuff. These things that happen since the tragic events of January the 20th of 2021, they have real-life consequences. That's what Mr. Fitzwater is referring to. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Answer the question. And thank you on behalf of John Marsh and producer Hannah and Brian Houseworth and Stephanie Bell. We appreciate your kind words.
It's a dream team. You guys are great. The nuclear power plant, I think there's going to be some news there, but it's not going to be nuclear related. I think the federal government has just overregulated that space so much. And, there are other countries. Germany wishes they hadn't offloaded their nuclear. Now that they've had to rely on Russia for their energy needs. And then, you have France that basically reuses their nuclear fuel. They just burn it all the way down, their pellets. And they get most of their energy from nuclear. And they've, that's been a big help for them to have reliable baseload power needs. So, we're just doing a lot of wrong things in D.C., and one of those is overregulating energy production in the nuclear field. And I hope that changes. I think it has to change if we're going to provide the power that everybody wants for their electric cars and their batteries and all the stuff we have in front of us. It's not going to be powered, at least not in the short term, by solar and wind quite yet. That's a long way off. So we've got to replace the loss of the coal plants that we're retiring on a regular basis, and I think nuclear is the answer to that.
Let me ask you, I want to go to something that Senate Majority Leader, because you're very likely headed to the Senate come the November election. I want to go to something Senate Majority Leader Caleb Rowden said yesterday. He was here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Mid-Missouri. And I want to get your thoughts as to whether or not you agree with his statement that he made on Wake Up Mid-Missouri yesterday.
Well, first of all, I have to say Brian Houseworth actually is legendary. So.
Thank you, Senator. Appreciate it.
Everybody else is just playing with house money.
So, Mr. Fitzwater, are you willing to say here and now on KWOS and 93.9 The Eagle that you agree with the sentiments of Senate Majority Leader Mr. Caleb Rowden?
I don't know that he's ever been more right. Brian Houseworth is a legend. He's an incredible guy. He's been just really, really fair and kind, and he's one of the few in the media before that would just give a fair perspective without tainting it with any level of political bias, and I think that's unique in our world today. And so he's excellent for sure.
Hey, by the way, so John Marsh, he ran to the bathroom real quick, so he can't hear you. What would you say about John Marsh? No,
I love that
Marsh
guy
is here too.
He's been so kind to me. That's so funny. I would never speak anything poorly of John either. He's always been very kind as well.
All right. What about Stephanie?
No,
stop it. Listen,
smartest person in the room. That's who she is.
State Rep Travis Fitzwater, parts of Cole and Callaway County, District 49, going on to the Senate race, very likely to win. Not going to have to write a Abe Lincoln-esque concession speech. My goodness. Listen, so while you're here, before we let you go, is there anything that you would like to add to be of service to the folks that are listening to this morning, to be of service to the folks here in mid-Missouri?
I think one of the big things is take heart. We've got a lot to be optimistic about. We're still the greatest country in the world, and I think we've got to fight for it. I've got 3 young daughters, and it's don't give up. I know politics are hard and they're frustrating, and there's a lot going on. But we've got a lot to fight for and a lot of good things in front of us, and we've got to be more optimistic than we are. And so I think keep your heads up, and I think we're going to get better.
I don't mean to get all kumbaya here, but I agree. It really is. It's our headspace sometimes. And listen, there's a lot of things. The can of Progressive soup, I'm paying over $3.50 a can. Prior to January 20th, 2021, I was paying $1.50 for a can of Progressive soup. It's gone up, and there's all these things that happen in the political rhetoric and paying more for this and this and that. And sometimes it's hot, and then sometimes it rains, and then sometimes 63.54 is going to be jacked up for a while. So all these things get us, but we stay positive. That's a personal message. State Rep Travis Fitzwater, thanks for joining us this morning.
Glad to be here with you all.
All right, we'll see you again here real soon.
I'll tell you just a very quick point, especially for the younger, and we got a lot of younger people that are listening, young adults especially, Brandon. To them, I would say this. He represents Holt Summit and Fulton. It would have been unheard of 20 years ago in the Kingdom of Callaway to have a Republican lawmaker in that district. Her name was Gracia Backer. Mm-hmm. She was the House Majority Leader from New Bloomfield. She represented it for years, and it was Danny Moore that ended up getting that seat, and then after that, Jeannie Riddle, and now Travis Fitzwater. And he is absolutely correct. Basically, the Republicans, not just Callaway County, but they have taken all those rural seats. That's how they got their supermajority.
Thank you. It's Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Brian House. 8:26, time for the Morning Bell. This is business news that's in a little twist that only Stephanie Bell can give you.
Now, you shared a pumpkin spice Oreo earlier, and so I can't stop feeling a little bit hungry and thinking about food all day. And I think as business owners, a lot of times we look around and we want to be the next Elon Musk. We want to invent something really cool. And sometimes what is it? Imitation is the best form of flattery. And you just got to take something and do a little twist. So Girl Scouts are going to be selling a new cookie called the Raspberry Rally. And it's going to be a spin on the Thin Mint. And so instead of mint flavored, it's going to be raspberry, but it's going to have that same chocolate coating.
I support this.
Yeah, that sounds I don't love Thin Mints, but I think I would like this raspberry thing.
I think I'm in the minority of the Girl Scout cookies. The plain dry sugar cookies are the worst, and then just above that would be the Thin Mints. But I think that's widely accepted as everybody's favorite. I always like the
Samoa, the chocolate with the coconut.
Chocolate, caramel, and coconut. And just want to clear something up here. When Stephanie said that I brought in some pumpkin spice cookies, let's be very clear about why, because that's not something.
Because you don't like pumpkin spice.
But you tried these Oreos.
Yeah.
And?
They're pretty good. So here's what happened. Every morning at 7:25 here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri, do What's Hot with Hannah. Just kind of some fun stuff. You might chat with friends at lunch or when you're in the break room at work, whatever. It's just different stuff. And pumpkin spice thing, it's you either hate it or you love it. And so Hannah was talking about this yesterday, and kind of in joking, I talked about my displeasure for pumpkin spice.
You weren't joking, though.
But you tried the cookie and you liked it.
So here's the thing. I thought, well, maybe I came off as a little harsh to some of our new friends that are listening to the show. So I thought, well, to make good, I happen to be at the store. I'm like, I'm going to go look for those pumpkin spice cookies that producer Hannah and Stephanie were talking about. Found some, brought them in, gifted them to the girls here on the show, and I even tried 1 or 5 of them. And I don't eat sweet food. It was good.
They are good. Well, the one that I'm really excited about is Chick-fil-A is releasing a new breakfast item, also a copycat, and I think this is really smart because I really like egg bites from a popular coffee place. They become very popular. People are trying to make them at home and stuff. And in certain cities, Chick-fil-A is coming out with the chorizo cheddar egg bites. And right? Doesn't that sound good? I think that is a great move by Chick-fil-A. And you get 4, apparently, rather than just 2.
There you go.
And so that's the one. I mean, take it or leave it, the raspberry cookie, but the chorizo cheddar egg bites for breakfast, yes.
You know what else is cool is Jefferson in Jefferson City. By the way, Steph and I are going to be there tomorrow.
At Thursday Night Live?
Thursday Night Live, and the food you can get down there.
Mm-hmm.
Man, it's some good stuff. Coming up, local police, local law enforcement agencies, something they pretty much all universally want you to be aware of. We're going to share that with you. Coming up 5 minutes from now here on the show.
I'll tell you what he's got. I don't know if you heard of this, but he's got BDE. Anybody know what that means?
I don't.
Ask your kids about it later. I call it Big DeSantis energy.
That is Carrie Lake. She is a Trump-backed candidate. She's running for Senate in Arizona.
Mm-hmm. And she was at a Turning Point event, so talking to young folks.
About BDE, I have no idea. I didn't know there's a thing. I didn't know, and I'm familiar with Florida politics. Lived there for a lot of years. I had never heard of Big DeSantis energy. I'm like, oh, I didn't even know that was a thing. Didn't know. So when she said BDE, and she's talking to all these young kids, and then I'm kind of like, oh, so see, even as a 51-year-old dude, I'm learning new stuff.
And Carrie Lake's running for governor of Arizona.
Governor of Arizona. BDE. And I'm told maybe don't ask your kids about that, actually.
She is catching, Twitter is on fire, and she's catching energy, especially among, some socially conservatives about how it's inappropriate and whatever. And she's kind of raised a firestorm, and she's hit back on Twitter and said, you know what? I said what I said, and I'm not taking it back.
And I'll go back, and I back her on this. You know what? BDE, Big DeSantis energy. Just words.
I'm really disappointed because she was down there at that Arizona conference I was at, apparently in the hallway. I don't know where I was, probably in one of the sessions listening. And so I saw a bunch of people got their picture with her, and I missed the whole thing.
So anything, by the way, Steph, that's Stephanie Bell. She is an attorney with Ellinger and Associates in Jefferson City. She's an older woman in Ashland. Producer Hannah is here. John Marsh, Brian Houseworth. My name is Branden Rathert. If there is something that we can do for you, let us know. 573-874-9390. 573-8. Okay, there's the text. So BDE does not mean Big DeSantis energy?
No, not normally, no.
No idea. And then apparently somebody did go and ask the kids, and now they're upset with us here already. Sorry. I didn't know.
So, a fun fact, my fiance's initials are BDE.
I didn't know that.
And I had his initials in my Instagram bio for 2 years before someone pointed that out to me. Because, Stephanie, you'll back me on this. It's the cute thing to do when you're dating someone to put their initials in your bio with maybe a cute little emoji.
Hannah, the last time I dated someone, I didn't have social media.
You probably have seen what I'm talking about at least, right?
I don't think so, but I will say I'm old school, so I do know you monogram a lot of things, and those are initials you probably couldn't monogram. See, growing up, my last name started with an A, and so my initials were SSA. And you can look at that. And again, I would never put that on anything because I'm clearly that is bleep backwards, right? I would never put that on there.
I'll send you guys a screenshot of my Instagram bio.
Very nice. There was a kid sometimes. He's a kid. I think he's probably 16 years old now, but his name is Jacob Shelp. This kid, I've been knowing him since he was 12 years old. He'd come in sometimes and hang out on the show on Feel Good Fridays. Jacob Shelp has gone and done as a kid. He's gone. We talk about getting involved, not just in politics, but just getting involved in your community, whether it's becoming an older woman, whether it's doing time with a charity. I don't mean doing time, but, donating time or money to a charity or whatever, picking up trash off the side of the road. Get involved. And this kid got involved. This kid's been testifying in front of lawmakers for years. He started out 11, 12 years old, started doing that. Remarkable kid, Jacob Shelp. And his mom came in one time. She got new plates. She had a license plate. I think the first three, it was A5S. From a distance, it looked like A and then the letter S and S, but it was A5S. And this is a very, very polite woman.
Proper, yeah.
Proper, that's a good way to put it. It's not like Hannah where she'd go out and sport it on her plates, it was...
But then the last three of it was H0E. So, yes, for real. I wonder, so if, as a parent, when you're naming your kid, are you looking at the initials? Because I did. I have a girlfriend whose initials are CEO. And I'm that's a boss move. I like that. If I could do that, I would do that.
I like that. That.
There's an old YouTube video, and it's basically a support group for women with bad monograms. Have you seen this video?
No.
So it's people whose monograms spell out bad words or words that you definitely wouldn't want embroidered on a tote bag. And it's a support group for these folks.
I love it. I think, we definitely wrote out the initials of our kids as we were naming them to make sure we didn't get something really wonky.
And I've heard these things before. My grandmother used to say, you don't trust, if their initials spell out a word, you don't trust that person.
Why?
Like if her name was Henrietta Aber Sebringley, her initials would spell her. You don't trust them. John, no, you didn't. Really? Marsh. Oh, God. Oh, God. You're... Okay, her dad.
Oh.
Oh.
We're going to be in trouble at 9 o'clock this morning.
Hot take from the oldest dude on the show, man. But it's factual. By the way, Liz Cheney raised. This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Good morning, Stephanie Bell.
Good morning, Branden Rathert.
It sounds so fun. Follow the cue cards. Good morning, producer Hannah.
Good morning.
My name is Branden Rathert. There's Marsh. How you doing today, bud? Amen. So this race in Wyoming, it's kind of interesting. As we look at Missouri history, it's no surprise that Cheney lost. It's no surprise she lost, and she got maybe 30% of the vote. And I'm wondering how much of that how much of that vote would have even been. Toby points this out via text at 573-874-9390. We do, whether it's on air or actually text, we respond to all of your texts. We do. If you don't believe us, challenge us. If you're a first-time texter to that number, 573-874-9390, we do. We respond, whether it's on air, what have you. So Toby reminds us, okay, so Liz Cheney got 30% of the vote in Wyoming. But how many? What percentage of those votes were from Democrats? Good point. So she got 30% of the people who voted yesterday in Wyoming. She got only 30% of the vote, and you wouldn't have even needed Democrats to vote for her opponent either way. She would have lost big time. In your mind, in your years of political acumen, John, is there anything here in Missouri politics that would even kind of relate to this? Again, no surprise she lost. What the surprise is what's happened in her political life over the past 18 months with her coming out in effect against Trump. It's the remarkable downfall kind of in her. Anything in your mind here locally that would rival that? Anything else on a statewide level that rivals this in your mind before we move on? Yeah, that's right. So it was kind of, and it's cool because whenever we have Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft on, because like Jay Ashcroft, he's met my dad more than once in dealings over the past couple of years, and I'm like, hey, how's your dad doing? Oh, he's doing fine. He's kind of keeping to himself. Now that was kind of a stunning loss because now to this day, Ashcroft enjoys the Ashcroft name enjoys, I think, a lot of BDE here in the state of Missouri, for lack of
Oh my God.
John Jay, that's a true story. All right.
I
John.
never would have thought that we would be talking about BDE on Wake Up in Missouri.
So, and I didn't know until like 10 minutes ago, by the way, because I was going to talk about local law enforcement agencies, whether it's in Callaway County, Jefferson City Police. I know some kids in the parochial schools, Jeff City, they've gone back to school. But as we all get ready to go back to school, I think parts of downtown Columbia are going to be kind of closed this weekend. Well, not downtown, but more specifically around the campus as students move in. So we've kind of been hearing from everybody, hey, just so you know, kids going back to school, be careful, be safe, pay attention to what's going on. I just learned 5 minutes ago what BD is. Carrie Lake, who's running for governor, she is a Trump-backed opponent in Arizona. She was talking about BDE, and she's saying it in reference to Florida Governor Ron DeSantis.
I'll tell you what he's got. I don't know if you heard of this, but he's got BDE. Anybody know what that means?
And I'm saying, like, no.
Ask your kids about it later.
Okay, whatever.
I call it Big DeSantis energy.
I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Big DeSantis energy. Until we need the youngest person on the show to point it out. Well, that's what Carrie Lake, who, by the way, she has something in common with the GOP nominee in our 4th District congressional race. Former TV personality, in effect. Mark Alford, who was tabbed as the Kansas City TV guy who won and now going to the general in November.
Well, and like Dr. Oz, it's really interesting. You know, a lot of these people, before you really kind of knew their politics, you know, they got really familiar with an audience, and it's kind of become a thing. I mean, even Trump was on TV before he got elected.
So this BDE stuff is starting to make a little bit of sense to me now, and hopefully here you won't bug your kids and grandkids, because you might be shocked. I am learning. You might be shocked by, especially if your kid is honest about what the kids say BDE means nowadays. So I'm familiar. There's a song.
Whoa. Have you screened this?
There's a song.
Dude.
As the 51-year-old chubby balding dude.
Like karaoke on the count of 3, baby.
I know that song because she rips off. Well, we don't rip off. They sample. She sampled Mariah Carey's Fantasy, which actually Mariah Carey ripped off
somebody else.
Yeah, like Tom Tom Club or something like. Oh yeah, I know that. Well, while all this is going on, while John Marsh is filling me in on BDE stuff, I'm like, oh, and there's a very dirty version of that song.
You know, I guess we shouldn't be surprised you didn't know what the acronym stood for.
Wait, what does that mean? Let's move forward. Gary Nolan's show is going to be coming up here.
got a little off the rails. Knowing what the topic is and it hits all those boxes, I'm like, oh my God. Uh-huh. People want a piece.
She's in the vein of Trump. Trump endorsed her. She's been on TV, and she knows if I get out there and I say this, it has got some shock value. And everybody from mid-Missouri to, coast to coast are going to be talking about what I said, and she's standing behind it. And so in that way, it's very smart because she's getting the media attention that she thought she was going to get and that she probably intended to get out of it. Now, at the same time, I would much rather have the Kennedy form of humor. What did he say yesterday? Like, those kind of people will step on every rake in the yard. Like, yeah. I think that's way more clever than just quoting like a popular song. And I would listen to him all day long before I'd listen to Carrie Lake. But at the same time, all across America, they're talking about Carrie Lake.
Which, by the way, I stepped on a rake once and it hit me in the face hard enough it broke my sunglasses. So I would not recommend.
John Kennedy said Joe Biden would be best suited for selling catheters on late-night TV yesterday.
But I think a majority of the voters in our country at this juncture think he would be better off selling catheters on late-night TV than serving as president of the United States.
That was after he stepped on every rake in the yard comment. And I'm going to give Dale some points here for taking part in Wake Up Mid-Missouri, which you can always do, 573-874-9390. You can call or text, and we respond to 100% of the text either on air or we personally respond to your text, and we sign with our initials like SB, H, and BR. I'm going to start signing them BDE. Dale says, broads discussing energy? What's so bad about that? Points for Dale.
Hey, at least you guys weren't walking around with BDE in your social media profile.
So, Hannah, BD, apparently it's a slang phrase for kids, and you can Google it. I'm not even really comfortable about this.
It's not for kids.
Well,
it's
not for kids, but it depends on how you define a kid. If you're younger than Stephanie Bell, in my mind, you're a kid. The younger generation, they know what BDE means. I learned it 10 minutes ago because I'm blessed to be surrounded by people like producer Hannah and Stephanie Bell, and I had no idea what it meant. I thought it meant Big DeSantis energy, according to the former TV personality Carrie Lake in Arizona. So Hannah, as it turns out, if you follow our drift, Hannah's fiance, who put a big old ring on her finger recently, there it is on our YouTube channel. You can watch the show, too.
Look, the camera won't even focus.
And you can watch on Facebook.
That's some BDE right there.
Yeah.
Her fiance, his initials are...
I can't believe this. I had no idea.
Yeah, so his initials are BDE. And it's like the cute thing to do. You put those initials in your Instagram bio. And they were there for 2 years before I realized, uh-oh.
Not only does it say BDE, there's a big old heart by it. Like she's all in on the BDE. I hope you're all in on the GN Gary Nolan Show coming up just minutes from now here on the radio station.